Hello, Paige. How are you today?
Great. Great to see you.
Good, good. So, we are here on YouTube, and for those people who are just tuning in or finding us here on YouTube for the first time, welcome. I am Megan Holmes, and I am here at my store. I'm actually filming in my store today because the back room was just kind of a mess, and it's not nearly as exciting to look at as all the stuff that's going on behind me. But I'm here in suburban St. Louis. And together with my pal Melissa McLeod, who owns the Wool and the Floss, which is outside of Detroit in Grosse Pointe, Michigan. We started doing this Pointing It Out podcast where we talk about all things and all people in the needlepoint industry. And so welcome if you're just joining us. And also a big welcome to Paige. Paige, is your last name Lauster? Lauster?
Perfect. Lauster, you got it.
So I was imagining that there might have been a little German influence there. So it sounds
very much so. Yes.
Me.
I married a German fellow from Munich, and Lauster is exactly right.
Lauster. Okay. So Paige Lauster is the owner, and I would call it lead designer for, do you say the Blue Ridge Stitchery or Blue Ridge Stitchery?
Blue Ridge Stitchery.
Blue Ridge Stitchery. So you can find Paige, just for future reference, on Instagram as Blue Ridge Stitchery. And so we are here to talk to Paige all about how she got into needlepoint. You can see all of these lovely designs displayed beautifully behind her. I just had the great fortune of spending some time with Paige up at our most recent Pointing It Out podcast retreat, which was in Michigan. And so I've had a little chance to get to talk to you, Paige, but I'm not sure I know all about your background and kind of how you got into this industry and all. So why don't we start at the beginning, which, as they say, is a very good place to start, right?
How far back are we going?
So did you start needle pointing more recently or as a kid, or when did you start actually in the craft?
So I stumbled across a needlepoint canvas that my mother stitched as a young girl.
Okay.
And she was not much of a crafty person, so she did a little bit.
Okay.
And then it got passed on to my sisters, and many years later, in fact, I have it here. I want to show it to you.
I want to see. Yeah, of course we want to see.
It's crazy, but so 4 of us have worked on this, and it was one of those age-old pieces where the flowers, I'm sure, were already done.
Of course.
And then anyway, the back is a complete disaster. It's all done completely wrong. We were all just like trying to figure it out, but hey.
Is there a right and wrong in needlepoint, Paige? That's the age-old question, really.
It just depends, but hey, it's all good. It's all good.
She was enjoying herself.
I have to tell you, it's so precious to me because we all worked on it, and I do need to find a home for this somewhere in the house. So anyway,
you will. So it is completed. It's completed now. Is that right?
It is. Yeah. Okay. It's with all of its wonderful personality and flaws.
So did your mother teach you to stitch then?
No. My godmother owned a knit shop and a little needlepoint shop and a kitchen shop. And she saw that I was interested in it. And so then she gifted me a more age appropriate project. I think it was probably on 10 mesh. It was a butterfly. Okay. And then I had a little lesson, and that's when I really got going with it.
So but go ahead.
I'd say probably it was much later when I picked it up with a vengeance, like after graduate school, probably is when I really started stitching a lot.
So when do you suppose that was gifted to you? Like grade school?
I think 9, 10 years old. Yeah.
That's really what I say is kind of the perfect age. A little more attention span, a little more dexterity. But some kids pick it up earlier, but yeah, so about age 9, and your godmother, and where was this? Were we here in the United States? Were we on the East Coast, the West Coast?
Yeah. I grew up in Charlottesville, Virginia.
Okay.
I grew up on a cattle farm, actually. I'm a farm girl. And my godmother was a trained artist, as well as my godfather. So they encouraged some artistic endeavors on my part.
So when you say trained artists, were they painters or were they sculptors?
He was a graphic artist, and she just was she never, I think, worked in the art industry, but she was just an incredibly artistic, creative person. She had a beautiful gift shop, and people came from all around to see her home decorating ideas, and she just was a wonderful creative gal.
So I'm going to expose some geographical shortcomings. Talk to me. Where is Charlottesville, Virginia? Like,
In the middle of the state, it's about
yeah.
an hour from Richmond, about
Okay.
2 hours south and a little bit west of DC.
Okay, that's what I was wondering if you were close to the DC area or not, but so a couple hour drive.
Yeah, home
Okay.
of University of Virginia. Um, what else can I tell you? Monticello, Thomas Jefferson. I mean,
Now that
that's
is a
all.
place I wouldn't mind
That,
visiting. I think that would be pretty fascinating. So then did you so you grew up there, and then did you pursue an education nearby, or did you go to college, or what was your kind of your next
I
step?
went a whole 2 hours away to Virginia Tech for my
Nice.
undergraduate degree. Um, Far enough away from home, but close enough that I could get back if I wanted to.
Sure. Sure.
Loved tech, studied accounting and Spanish there.
Accounting and Spanish.
Mhm.
That's a great combination. So where did that take you?
It took me to marrying a German guy, so my Spanish unfortunately didn't work out so well. But hey, learning one language just leads to the next, I guess.
So
Uh,
was he German as in actually from Germany? Like
yeah, he's
was
from Germany.
living in Germany at the time?
We met at graduate school.
Okay.
At a graduate school, yeah. So
And was it also at Vatech or
no, that was at the University of Virginia. So I left Virginia Tech. I worked in DC for a few years in accounting. Um, and then I decided to go back and get my MBA
okay.
in finance from the University of Virginia Darden School. And that's where I met my husband, Stefan, who arrived with 2 suitcases and a heavy accent. We always joke. Um, and he left with me and a whole bunch of wedding gifts.
Oh
Um,
my gosh. So
so
you had a marriage before you finished graduate school?
we married 1 week after we graduated. So we
Oh,
graduated
awesome.
together, and a week later, we had all of the family was already there. So why not have another party?
Hey, that sounds perfect.
Yeah,
So
it was.
then I know that you are not currently living in Virginia, right?
Right. I'm in Cleveland.
I
Yes.
thought so.
Yes.
So you ventured to Cleveland after graduate school or short or more recently?
No, we had a little travel in between. Stefan and I lived in Munich for the first 4 years of our marriage. I worked for the Disney company in finance in Munich. We loved Munich. But then he had an opportunity to start an office in Bombay, India. He's a
Oh my gosh.
consultant. So then we had the big adventure of living in Bombay for 4 years.
My gosh.
And then we went to Ohio after that.
Then you went to Cleveland, Ohio, home of the
Yes.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame,
Right.
right?
With 3 little kids by then. So
Okay. So,
it was a busy few years.
oh my gosh, how fun though to be able to experience different cultures and different surroundings for a few years.
Absolutely.
Were your
Yes.
kids born out of the country?
Yes. Emily was born in Germany.
Okay.
The other two were born, I have 2 girls and a boy. The other two were born during our tenure in India, but I did fly home to Virginia to actually have them.
How exciting. That's so cool. So do you have family? So I'm just very curious now. So
Yeah.
you have family in Virginia. And your husband, does he still have family in Munich or in the Munich?
Yes, yeah, his parents are still living, and his brother is a doctor, lives not too far from Munich,
Oh,
and a
cool.
whole bunch of cousins. So yeah,
So I'm wanting to jump really forward right into your designing because I just happen to know that a lot of your German I guess family and your experience with the German
right.
culture has inspired a lot of your designs. But first, why don't we talk about, so you were were you needle pointing throughout your time in Germany and in India?
Yes,
Okay.
I did. I think I got onto a stocking kick at some point. So I made a
Okay.
stocking for my husband, and then all the kids, and that was a great activity. So I would pick up a project when I was back in the States, having a baby usually, and then
Sure.
I'd have something to work on. Um, and I've always loved making things, and stitching is just a great activity, as we all know. So I've enjoyed doing the stitching. Um,
So you said stockings, but was there any designers that particularly inspired you before you were a designer?
I have a little penchant for Kathy Schenkel stand-up Santas. I think I have
Okay.
5 of those.
I'm hoping
Um,
to find the German one, who he's got the little, doesn't he have a German flag?
yeah, I've got that one.
He's cute.
I think the reason those appealed to me is I had learned to basket weave and I was basket weaving up a storm, and I really hadn't learned any decorative stitches. And Kathy's Santas come with a simple suggestion of stitches and other threads. And I'm sure I had never used the sparkly threads or the velvet, and I had done 0 decorative stitches. So I just loved having someone sort of walk me through a couple
Well,
of projects.
in addition to that, Kathy's designs have a lot of open spaces. They're kind of geographic. I don't know how else to explain it, but
They're
her
graphic,
a
yeah.
lot of
Mhm.
open spaces. So that allows for a lot of space to get a decorative stitch going. So that's kind of the perfect
Exactly.
step, a perfect next step. And so Kathy Schenkel was a sort of interest to you. So at one point did you say, like, sort of take us into your needlepoint like experience? So you're stitching,
Right.
you're in the United States, and then
Yeah. So what happened was I started stitching a lot, and the local shop that I go to is called Wool in the Willow.
yes,
And I kept turning up there on such a regular basis that they asked me to. Ann Forker, the owner, was like, "Well, would you like to work a couple days?" So I started working and being around threads, and the more I was in the needlepoint world, the more I felt enticed to stitch some things that didn't exist.
sure.
The Blue Ridge Mountains. I have an affinity for the Appalachian Trail, the Blue Ridge Mountains, things that remind me of my home in Virginia, like, I don't know, the cardinal, or I've done the dogwood blossom. There are just certain things that I wanted to have for myself, including a whole bunch of German themed items.
Yep.
And I just thought, well, I wonder if I, could take a crack at this. And luck would have it that Joanna Summers, the designer at Plum Stitchery, also used to work at Wool in the Willow, and she very kindly gave me a quick 20 minutes. This is sort of how I do it. And yeah, I got some blank canvas and some acrylic paints, and just, I think I painted maybe 5 or 6 things and had them produced
Perfect.
and
So
turned up,
I,
you know,
I I know Anne only just from being at market and having met her a couple times, but her claim to fame is that she helps sort of matriculates designers out of her store. So there was somebody else, and it's escaping me, but both you and Joanna, and there's someone who came before that was I can't remember right now.
Barbara, I think, I don't know her name. Barbara, who did all the little shift dresses, I think is now
Oh, yes. Was it Bergstrom who Don
yeah.
Lynch, I believe, bought that line, and now it's Two Sisters, but I didn't realize that was also okay.
And
So
I think Anne also worked with Kelly Clark. She's just, I don't know, she's just a very encouraging, lovely person, and I've been really fortunate to spend time in the shop.
she's a
It's a
neat
great
person.
spot.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I would love to come visit sometime. But so in the meantime, so you start kind of doing some designs, and then about what year is this? Is this
So, so my first designs were ready the late summer of 2019.
okay?
And I was scheduled to launch spring of 2020. And we all know that, market didn't happen, but it didn't really matter. I did the virtual market. I posted some things on Instagram, and very nicely introduced me to a couple of her shop buddies, like
Yep.
Nancy McGuffin at Chapel Hill, who, my stuff was sort of East Coast centric at the time. There were a few early adopters that were nice enough to give me a shot, and it just grew from there.
So what I remember as your first couple of designs, and I might be wrong, but this is just sort of what I think of Paige, and I think of Blue Ridge. I think of and I'm not going to say it right because my German is not strong. Is it the Dirndl? Is that
You got it. You
is
got
that
it.
close? Okay. And so
The
and that's
journal.
So
So
that's the female version of a,
the German costume, right? And
okay. And then the lederhosen, is that right?
lederhosen. So leder is
Lederhosen.
leather and hosen is pants, leather pants.
They are so darn cute. And so were those a couple of your first?
Yes, they were right up there.
I love those.
The cardinal, the dogwood, the small version of the Blue Ridge Mountains.
And then the Stein.
Here.
Which I'm currently working on. And I saw yours and I'm thinking of pulling mine out and redoing it. So I just love that. I think it's so cute. And it doesn't have to be German, but we have a pretty decent Oktoberfest here in St. Louis.
I'm sure you do.
Thank you, Anheuser-Busch, et cetera, you know. And so anyway, so that reminds me of that. So those are the first couple that I think of. But then also I don't have a strong affinity for a good knowledge of the Appalachian area, I guess, for lack of a better term. So, but I think that those are really beautiful. So is that behind you is the skyline sort of, is that right?
Yeah, the Blue Ridge Mountains. Let me pull this out. This is when I drive home and I come over the Afton Mountain into Charlottesville, this is what you see. I mean, the Smoky Mountains would be a similar look. All of the mountains get a blue hue to them, and they're just incredible.
So what I want to say about this, though, whether you have an affinity for mountains or water, I mean, there's a lot of sort of iterations you could look at this and see, I think, rolling hills, etc. But what I love about this design, it is the perfect design. Speaking of Kathy Schenkel and moving into learning new stitches, this is a great design for learning new stitches because it's very linear and you can really get a stitch going. I love this piece for
you have room to practice and get your mojo going if you want to try different stitches. And Mary Legalay did this stitch guide, but anyone can tackle it and just start with larger stitches at the bottom to pull the mountain forward, and then sort of lighter and more open as you move to the top, and that gives you a sense of depth.
So I'm not sure what came first, the big or the small Blue Ridge Mountain, but this I see right over your
little one, of course, because I was meek. I was very meek.
Sure, until you really dove in. So but right there in the screen I can see, and I'm not even sure you can see, but it's your small ornament version of that. And is that the one that has the cardinal on it?
Yeah.
So this is the one that has really sold well here in our store, of course, because the cardinals, obviously, people really are drawn to here in St. Louis, but that's just a really beautiful, simple design too. And if I recall, that's on 13 count mesh also, right? Or is that
it comes in 2 sizes?
Okay.
It's my best-selling piece. It just, I don't know, it strikes a note. It's done really, really well. And so I painted it on 13 and 18 because I was getting a lot of requests. So you have your choice. I do try to do quite a few ornaments on 13 mesh. I don't know if you have this experience in your shop, but we have a lot of stitchers in the Cleveland shop that just find it hard to stitch.
Sure, like we love them for people who are growing in years under their belt of stitching. And then we also love it for people who are starting out, just to get a start. So we have a whole bin I'm standing right here next to that says 13 count mesh ornaments. And it's just a way for people to, like I said, either get started or to, and I still have some pretty good eyesight, but it sure is fun to just stitch through something that's on 13 count mesh. I'm sure you find the same experience. So, so I don't want to put words in your mouth. So, but when I think of Paige starting out, it was the German inspired, the beer stein. What are some of the others that sort of trailed that?
Let me think. So I did a whole series of birds.
Okay.
I did this little owl.
Owl is beautiful.
And this guy did really well. The rocket pig.
Okay,
kind of
I forget that he's sort of that's so funny, Paige, because your things are very a little bit more, I don't want to say serious, but a little more like landscape. And then you've got the rocket pig. He's so funny. I love him.
Every once in a while I just run off the rails and do something crazy.
What inspired him?
I saw a pig with a rocket on a t-shirt in New York City on a trip, and I just thought, I just love the sass of that pig, because they weren't lucky enough to have wings to fly, so she's just going to strap a rocket on her back and get where she needs to go.
So good. That's so good.
So
So
that was a fun one.
so we've got all these smaller rounds and these ornaments, and then again, I hate to put words in your mouth, but I'm just trying to draw us in the right direction here. So at the most recent market, you had a series of British inspired,
Yes.
but I don't know if along that same line you also launched art from another artist, correct? So I don't know what came first.
Right. So
artist
actually the London series I painted about 2 years ago.
okay.
And we did a club through Wool and Willow. And just as the club was, everybody did all the pieces. As the club was wrapping up.
Tell us real quick, Paige, what were those pieces? So was that the corgi with the crown?
There were 7 pieces. The corgi was probably the top seller of that group. Corgi with the crown, the Queen's Guard, Fortnum and I should have a. See,
it's okay. I'm putting you on the spot.
Like prepared, like Melissa and you are.
You got it.
Mason. I don't have them all here. There were 7 altogether. Harrods, Liberty of London, the London Eye. Anyway. Since then, I've added another 5 or 6 pieces. Larry the cat who lives
is my favorite. So back up really fast. So you were about to say something and I interrupted you. You said about the time that was winding up, the club was winding up.
Right. The Queen passed away, and so we decided to release. They just went wide. We released it, all the individual pieces. So that series has, as you might imagine, done hugely well. And is still doing well. And I recently painted a carriage for the coronation, the gold carriage that
I've seen that one. Do you have that there?
I sold a whole parcel of them and more coming, but they pre-sold before the coronation.
Okay. So, but back to what you were going to say is, so I stopped in to see you. So at market, I get real nervous and I want to make sure we try to see everybody. So I have a couple of colleagues who sort of, we all kind of go in different directions. But then I kind of try to follow up and say, hey, but I wanted to say hi to you. So anyway, I go into Paige's thing and my mind was blown. I think Larry the cat is so funny, and I'm not even a cat person. You explained to me that Larry the cat has his own Instagram page.
Yes, he lives at 10 Downing Street, and I don't know who runs this page, but it's very hilarious British humor, very cheeky. And they, make fun of UK politics all the time. So the cat is constantly photo bombing heads of state. And anyway, so Larry had to join.
So Paige painted him with a bow tie, a Union Jack bow tie, and it's absolutely darling. We may have sold out of it again because I talk about it all the time. I just think it's so funny. Yes. But anyway, so you did that series. You said 2 markets about 2 years ago. I just can't keep track.
No, that's fine. They were available to everybody just in January of this past year. So yeah, they're still fairly new. So that was a big one. And then at the most recent market, you were alluding to Catherine Miller-Knuth, who I'm so excited to introduce to everybody. A young painter from Michigan. Ooh. Who studied at Wake Forest, studied sculpture and painting at Wake Forest. She's young mom of 3 kids.
Wow.
And I saw her thing. She actually won a contest with Bobble Stockings, Bobble Stockings.
Oh, yes.
She submitted her artwork and they chose her art for the pre-stitched little stockings that are made in Haiti. I think that's right.
Yes, anyway, that's right. Yeah.
I saw her things. I was like, I just love them, but I want to see them in all their glory.
Sure.
So Catherine allowed me to adapt some of her pieces. This is one of them.
Is that a magnolia?
It's a magnolia blossom. There's another piece, a triple. You have to look on my site because everything sold out at market. It did really, really well. She does like lakeside, seaside views, incredible florals. I'm so pleased with these. I really love, I just love them so much. But and then of course it's always nice to see that others also find them.
Yeah. When you just
never know. You never know. I mean, I try to do the things that speak to my heart, but you know, you never
Right.
know
Right.
what's going to fit.
So do you have more in store, more for artwork being adapted? Is that on your painting desk now?
I do. I'm doing a series of slightly smaller pieces, 8-inch square peonies. She painted a whole series of peonies. So one of them is already on the website, available for pre-order. It should be in about 2 weeks. And then I think I've got one more at the painter, and I'm going to do a third. You were asking me about my process. So this is
Okay.
I usually I paint in Procreate, which is a digital program. It's an app.
Uh-huh.
But once I'm done with my design process, I just print out a black and white outline and put this under the canvas. And then I paint on canvas. When I'm designing, I don't chart.
I gotcha. Yep.
Sometimes I'll chart after I've painted something, I'll chart it, but when I'm creating the original piece, I like to put it actually on the canvas, because sometimes the magic happens when you're playing with the paint.
Yeah, and everybody does it differently, but that's good to know. So you like to kind of like see how it looks and then do a line drawing and then put it on the canvas. That's interesting.
Right. So Procreate is a really cool tool. It costs next to nothing. Anybody can do it. And you design in layers. So you could have 100 layers. And let's say it's a stocking and there's a bear and there's some trees and there's mountains. You can put those each on a separate layer.
Layer them. I see.
You can move them around. You can make them bigger and make them smaller. You can flip them and try different colors. So it's very easy to, you're not stuck with your first sketch. In other words, it's really easy to manipulate and get happy with it before you commit to paint.
Very good. Paige, I just had something just popped up here on my screen. Hold on. Can you still see me okay?
Yeah, I can see you.
Sorry, I just had something pop up, so I got distracted.
No problem. No problem.
So do you design, so you were talking about adapting. So you adapt someone's artwork the same way that you design your own artwork? So in the same Procreate and the line drawing and all.
Exactly. So
Okay.
this is one of Catherine's pieces. I get a high quality photograph of her original, and I try to be, when it's not my own original design, I try to be as true to their original as I can, but it needs to be stitchable.
Yes.
So, I mean, her paintings might have 50 or 70 shades of colors in there, and that obviously doesn't work it just would never be fun.
Right.
So I make certain choices, honoring the feel of the piece and trying to make it fun for the stitcher as well.
Gotcha.
Trying to take the guesswork out of it.
So I don't know if you had these at market and I just missed it, or when you released these, but when I just saw you in Michigan, you had all these little animals with cocktails and they are so darn cute. Do you have those there, or are those all sold out?
I do.
The octopus. So we just read Remarkably Bright Creatures for we call it Thread and Ink. It's a book club for stitchers. And we were all saying that we thought, I don't know if you've read that book, but Marsalis, who's the character in the book, is like your guy, like spot on, because he would be holding a martini in both arms, and so show us one of those.
Yeah.
Do you mind? And where did these come from? Because these just seem to not be, again, like you have these little depths of your brain that just pop out for me. It's funny.
Yeah, so this is another German thing. I was in Germany and I saw a motif of a lobster with a champagne glass.
Okay.
And that got me thinking, I'm like, I really like that guy. He's pretty cute. What other sea creatures might want to have a cocktail? So I thought of blue crab and beers, because obviously Virginia,
that's so cute. I don't remember him. He's so cute. Hilarious.
Reminds me of the Chesapeake Bay and sort of the area where I grew up in. And
Yes.
then, one of my colleagues at work was like, octopuses are really cool right now, and you should think about an octopus. So sometimes I get my best ideas from customers or friends.
I bet. So
the other thing, they complained about that it should be a set of 4, but I couldn't think of a 4. So, hey, there's 3. But if you guys can come up with an idea for a 4th,
I might have an
crustacean,
idea.
sea creature with a cocktail of your choice, let me know and I'll paint it up.
I might have an idea or two. I'll let you know.
Okay.
I have tons of ideas. My brain doesn't stop working. It's just that I don't have the talent to paint like you do. So
It's hard to execute all the ideas. I sometimes have to strap myself down to the table and say, okay, today I'm going to make something.
So the other newer of your designs, and I'm wondering if they were inspired by, I don't know, your family, but the sleds that you came with, the little girl and little boy on the sled. I love those too. Where was the inspiration from those?
That was a German idea as well. I get a lot of inspiration. We went at just before Christmas time when they have the Christmas markets.
Oh, sure.
Germany, so all the little huts and everything is decorated with pine boughs, and you can have a hot mulled cider, or what is it? Glühwein. I don't even know what the English word for that is. It's a mulled wine. It'll give you a
Okay.
really wicked headache. But anyway, people
Yes.
stand out in the cold and they drink this mulled wine, and
Yes.
there are little tchotchkes everywhere. It's just a lot of fun. So I take tons of pictures when I travel, all sorts of things.
Well, that's what I was just going to ask you. Do you have a sketchbook, or do you just kind of have photos and just notes?
I
Or
take a lot of photos. And then when I'm ready to design, I usually make an inspiration board, and then I use
okay.
that for sketching. And my pieces often will be sort of a collage of maybe multiple things that I've seen.
That's amazing, because you never had, I mean, just based on our limited conversation about your educational background, you didn't have any art training, any.
Right. I didn't, but I have started to remedy that. The last 3 years, I've been taking classes at Rhode Island School of Design.
Oh, cool.
During the pandemic, they had to pivot like so many of us. People couldn't go in person, so they really broadened their offering of continuing education courses. Anybody can sign up if you're interested in learning how to draw or to paint, or
Oh,
you
interesting.
want to know how to use Photoshop or Adobe Illustrator. There are 1,000,001 offerings at RISD. So I've taken, I think, 5 or 6 classes now, and that has helped me improve, I think, my process and helped me to find my voice.
Well, your process has, I would say, is pretty good, because you've really grown your line and you're really continuing to kind of steer the ship in the right direction with new designs and things. So tell me
Thank you.
about, I love to ask these questions of artists and designers. So do you have a favorite of your, so when you look at all your, all your designs, like do you have a favorite, or can you say?
I do. I have a current favorite.
Okay, that's fair.
It changes.
Sure.
My current favorite is this blue bonnet,
So
which
pretty.
was actually part of a RISD class, Rhode Island School of Design class I took in digital painting. So I worked on this for about 6 weeks, different versions, sketching blue bonnets in many different forms. And ultimately, when the class was done, I did paint it on canvas. And I love it because it's not only blue. At
Yeah,
one
it's
point, I
got some
thought,
deep
boy,
lavender.
my whole line is blue and green. I love blue and green. So this has this really cool pop of sort of a salmony pink in the background, which I think is gorgeous.
And it looks like you're working
And
open stitch.
I'm working on, Mary Legalay did a stitch guide for this that just came out, and
All
it's got
right.
some beautiful ribbon work, silk floss, this really cool open background that mimics the shape of the buds. So I'm just super proud of this piece. I love it so much. And also, it's not just East Coast centric. I had to paint something for my Texas buddies. So there you go. There are the blue bonnets.
You got it. Very good. So what is your bestseller, all-time bestseller?
All-time bestseller is this guy.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's a good Blue Ridge Stitchery piece.
Just it gets people snap it up, and it's just an easy bite-sized Blue Ridge piece.
Okay, so what's the design that sits on the shelf in your study, or in your studio, and it just doesn't go, and you just can't figure out why no one wants to buy it?
I have a few of those. I say if you don't have any clunkers, you're not trying hard enough, right? You're not taking enough risks. You
True.
gotta put enough things out there to hit a home run. But I'd say my saddest orphan at the moment is this one here. I gotta get this is based on block printing from India.
Oh, right.
I thought it was cool, but hey, the 6 people in America that have stitched it, I'm sure think it is awesome.
Well,
So I don't want to cast aspersions on the block print.
so what is that? 18 count mesh, 13 count mesh? What is that one?
This one is 14.
Okay.
And it also comes in an eyeglass case.
Oh, so is it like about a 9 by 9? I'm just guessing based on the.
I don't know, Megan.
So it's a pillow.
Just a little bit old, a little bit bigger than that, maybe 9 inches.
Well, it's pretty. So I'm sorry that that's the clunker, but hey, you just never know. Maybe no one has seen it yet, so now they will.
You gotta put yourself out there.
So aside from these beautiful paintings that you're doing through RISD, is there anything else on your painting desk right now that you either want to give us a little sneak about, or something?
Sure. Well, everything is getting turned in. I don't have anything to show you actually because I had to ship it off, so it will be painted in time for October market. But I'm working on a few different things. I have 2 sets of exclusives, so I won't mention the shops because they want to announce. But one is a 4 seasons, sort of Virginia-centric 4 seasons.
Cool.
The other is a set of New York pieces, sort of a la the London series, sort of architecturally inspired. Stay tuned to see what those are. And then yesterday, I just sent off, this is actually something that someone brought in, a vintage piece that had been on their tree for many, many years, and they wanted to have it painted for their daughters. And it's a little Santa, 3D Santa.
Oh, cute.
And at the bottom, it has his feet.
Oh.
I just thought that was so cute. So I'm working on a Mrs. and a Mr. Claus.
So like, is it little beads that dangle down with little feet?
No, it's a circle so you can make it like a dome. It sits on the feet.
Oh, so funny. Oh my God.
Now, I've stitched one and I sent it off because, who knows if this thing all fits together, but I like the idea, and stay tuned. We'll see if it works.
What a good idea. So you're adding to the holiday, sort of the Christmas collection. Sure.
Yes.
Like. Very good.
And then what else? And then a series of 4 or 5 ornaments that were inspired by our trip to Alsace Champagne region last year.
That sounds lovely.
So sort of French-German inspired holiday items coming up. Lots of new things.
I love that. And so what people I think don't think about or understand is that, so we're today is May 15th, 16th, something around there. And so you've already designed and sent things off so that you can have them available to you and available for people to purchase in October. So
correct.
This industry is a little tough. You have to be thinking ahead and designing ahead. And so, I mean, it's just like any other industry, I suppose, fashion industry, home decor, all those things. But so it's feels probably a little rushed. I don't know, to be like, oh my gosh, I have to have some designs.
There's always pressure to produce because you need to have, I don't know, 8 to a dozen at least new things in your room. I think you want to draw people in and have them look, and always the first question is what do you have that's new?
Yeah.
And I do have certain things that continue to produce year after year, but it's always fun to see what's new, right?
You've got more in your brain. You designers always have more in your brain. Before I changed the subject, I forgot that you do the line of the bridge, right? Is that yours with
the Rainbow Bridge?
Rainbow Bridge, yes. And so you've got the cats and the dogs for the rainbow. Those are beautiful, right? Or are we still doing those? Or
I actually discontinued those.
Oh, sorry, I brought it up. Well, they were beautiful.
A good idea. It was a good idea, but here's the problem with the Rainbow Bridge, because it's to commemorate when a pet has passed away, right? And so everybody wants to have the Rainbow Bridge for their Pookie or whatever. Right. It didn't matter how many breeds I painted. It just was never the right breed. So that was a little bit of a tricky a tricky design. I painted it from when my black lab passed away, and by the end, I think I had maybe 10 different ones, but it's
Well, I have a little idea for you that I'll share with you when we get off here,
all right.
but I just like that sentiment, and I understand exactly what you're talking about. In fact, a lot of designers, as I'm sure maybe you did too, don't even name the breed if they paint an animal. They just say, here's a yellow dog because it may
When you
look
want
like
it to
your
be,
dog.
right?
Exactly right. And especially with the mixed breeds and the rescue animals and things that you
Yeah,
just say, here's this dog. Does it look like your dog? Oh, it's a lab.
yeah,
Great. Yeah, it is. You know? So
exactly.
I understand why that's a rabbit hole, but I just thought that was a sweet
I
sentiment.
love animals. I've painted, I'll show you this one. This is another one of my
He's
really top sellers. So I'm
he's a
going with dogs
beautiful.
that are alive. And
Yeah. Good thinking.
this is a golden retriever that's doing super well.
The one behind you on the other side is a yellow lab, right? With the holly.
Yeah,
I love that too.
the lab is available in yellow and black. I have labs. I painted this for a friend that has a nephew that had a brand new service dog.
Oh, cool.
So, and I'm pleased with him because the expression is good, but it's not 8,000 different colors. So anyone can stitch this. It's not too difficult. It's
Yeah,
very
it's
doable.
beautiful. In fact, I'm drawn to your black lab because I have a mixed breed that kind of looks like him. And I bought it and I think we sold it. So I might have to buy another one. I always buy things that I like and think, well, I guess if no one wants it, then I'll keep it. And then I get bummed out when somebody buys it.
Don't buy it.
Exactly. But in the end, we want to get your art out. And so, Paige, is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you want to share about your business or your career path or where you see things going?
Well, I tell you, it's just been incredible. It's growing leaps and bounds. I never dreamt that I would have such a booming business at this stage of my life, and it's just perfect. Very flexible. You know, I can take it with me. My husband is newly retired, so he's pitching in a little bit. He went to market with us, so that was really fun.
Fun.
Fun
He
for him
probably
to
thought,
see.
what in the world is
He was
going
a
on
little
here?
afraid. He was a little afraid in the first day, but by the second day he warmed up and was checking people out and having a great time. So I'm just enjoying every bit of it and
How many
appreciate.
dogs do you have total now? Excuse me for interrupting you. I'm
No,
sorry.
no problem. I think it's around 130 or so, and I've got maybe a dozen or 15 in the pipeline.
Wow,
So
that's
yeah, it's
amazing. Good for
bumping
you.
along, bumping
And
along.
before we kind of got started here, you shared with me something that you like to do in your free time, and it sounds like you're amping up for a trip. So share with us what you enjoy doing in your free time.
Yes, so I like to bike. I ride the Peloton a lot. Um, I used to play a lot of tennis, but I hurt my foot, so the bike
Like
has
knees
been
and ankles.
good. Yeah, the bike has been a really good friend. And my husband is a runner, and I don't run, so we thought, well, if we want to do a trip together, maybe we could try biking together. And last year we did a backroads bike trip to Champaign and loved that. So we're going to go try it again. We're going with a couple friends this year, and we're going to bike 5 days in the south of Italy. So who knows? There could be an Italy series coming up.
I've not been to a lot of places. In fact, I've never been to Germany. I've been to the south of France, but my by far favorite trip I've taken so far was the Italian. I did, Florence and Tuscany and
Right.
Italy. I haven't done the south, I guess, right? I haven't been down to, so did you say south? So are you doing, is that
Like
Rome?
way down in the boot, Puglia. We're going to Puglia,
Oh, wait, okay, okay, okay.
way down south, and I have not been to that part. I'm very looking forward to it.
Yeah, no kidding.
My
So, but
husband loves Italy. He studied some Italian in Italy as a teenage boy, and so he has. I don't know how he ended up with an American wife, but he has a real affinity for all things Italian.
an American wife who speaks some
So,
Spanish, but no Italian or German.
so fluent. I'm fluent in German now, but
Oh, good for you. Do you just pick that up from living there?
oh yeah, I studied. Yeah, I studied
Oh, good for you.
for 5 months, and then I worked for Disney. But
That's
yeah,
not easy to do as an adult. It's much easier to pick up a language as a younger person. So good for you. Some people have the brain for that.
I was motivated. I was motivated.
I understand. Well, this has
definitely.
been really fun to chat, and thank you for sharing a little bit more about your process and your designs. And like I said earlier, Paige is very active on Instagram, and you can find her at the Blue Ridge. Is it the? I'm sorry, I can never.
At Blue Ridge Stitchery.
Blue Ridge Stitchery, and you do a lot of releasing of designs and teasing designs and things. You do a great job with that, and uh yeah, so I don't know, I just have enjoyed getting to know you and understanding your process, and I appreciate your time. And like I said, for anyone who wants to know more about Paige, you can find her on Instagram. For anybody who's just joining us for the Pointing It Out podcast, you can hit this little button that says subscribe. That helps us to continue to spread the word about the podcast and get more information about our industry. And so thank you for your time, Paige, and thank you everybody for joining us. And until next time, we'll see you.
Thanks. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye bye.